Brothers and sisters, in a world where power is often measured by wealth, weapons, and influence, let us redefine power. True power lies in integrity. True power is the courage to stand alone when the world bends its knees to injustice. Today, I do not speak as a president. I speak as a soldier. I speak as a son of Africa, a guardian of truth, and a defender of my people. We are tired. Tired of watching nations with rich soil, brilliant minds, and infinite potential be treated as commodities. Tired of being told who our enemies are, who our friends should be, and how we must live. This message is not just for Burkina Faso. It is for every soul who is shackled by invisible chains. It is for the youth rising in the streets, for the mothers who cry at night for safety, for the fathers who till the land yet cannot feed their children. This message is for every country whose voice has been muted by corruption, debt, and manipulation. They want us to be afraid, afraid to speak, afraid to rise, afraid to hope. But our silence ends now. We are not rebels. We are rebuilders. We are not traitors. We are truth tellers. And when we say Africa must stand up, we do not mean in isolation. We mean with pride. We mean with unity. We mean in peace, but not in passivity to the world we are watching. To the colonizers of mind and economy, your time is ending. To our brothers and sisters in every continent to rise. Rise with knowledge. Rise with purpose. Rise with faith. Not in foreign powers, but in your own. We do not reject cooperation. We reject exploitation. We do not reject progress. We reject pretense. We do not reject peace. We reject peace without justice. Let this be a new day, a new chapter, a message not just of defiance, but of rebirth. Burkina Faso is awake. Africa is awake. And the world will never silence us again. Power. It's a word the world has used for centuries to dominate, to conquer, to control. For too long, power has been measured in missiles, bank accounts, and political alliances. But that kind of power, cold, calculated, and corrupt, has only brought division, poverty, and fear. It's the power that silences the weak while feeding the strong. It's the kind of power that tells nations like ours we are less, simply because we won't bow to foreign interests. But we say no more. Because real power does not come from oppression. Real power is not about how many armies stand behind you. It's about how many people stand with you because they believe in what you stand for. True power is integrity. It's the unwavering decision to do what is right even when it is not popular, even when it is dangerous. It's refusing to sell your soul for approval or comfort. When a leader chooses his people over his paycheck, that is power. When a young person chooses to speak truth over remaining silent in the face of corruption, that is power. When a nation refuses to be treated like a pawn on someone else's chessboard, that is power. It's easy to wear a title. It's easy to wear a uniform. But to walk with honor, to serve without compromise, that is rare. And that is powerful. Power is courage in motion. It's the soldier who refuses to shoot at his own people. It's the farmer who wakes up every day to feed a nation, knowing no one will sing his name. It's the teacher who plants knowledge in the minds of children, knowing that education is the most radical weapon in the hands of the oppressed. That's the kind of power we believe in. Not the kind that rules through fear, but the kind that inspires through conviction. Not the kind that conquers land, but the kind that cultivates minds. And we must understand this deeply. Power without principle is destruction. History has shown us that empires built on greed always fall. But those who stand firm in truth, those who carry the burdens of their people with honor, they are the ones remembered, not just in books, but in the blood of generations to come. We were not born to imitate the oppressors. We were not born to follow systems that profit from our suffering. We were born to lead with vision, to rise with dignity, to define what strength truly means. So let the world know, when we rise, we are not chasing the old version of power. We are creating a new one built on truth, on justice, on loyalty to our people. And no matter how many threats come our way, we will not trade our values for comfort. That is our power. That is our legacy. And it cannot be taken. It cannot be bought. It can only be earned through sacrifice, through service, and through unshakable integrity. There comes a moment in every generation when silence becomes betrayal. Betrayal not just of others, but of ourselves, of our values, of our dignity. And that moment is here. The world has trained many of us to be quiet, to stay in line, to keep our heads down and not make noise. We are told that it is wise to stay silent in the face of injustice, that silence is maturity, that silence is survival. But let me tell you something, silence is not always noble. Sometimes silence is surrender. And we were not born to surrender. When our people cry out for justice and we say nothing, we become part of the problem. When systems steal resources from the hands of the poor and we remain silent, we are allowing the theft to continue. When our leaders fail us and we look the other way, we become enablers of corruption. Silence may be comfortable, but it is not courageous. And without courage, there can be no change. The greatest victories in history were never born from silence. They were born from voices that refused to be ignored. We cannot afford to wait for others to speak up for us. No savior is coming. No outside force will fight harder for our freedom than we must fight for it ourselves. If you see wrong and you say nothing, that wrong grows. If you see pain and do nothing, that pain spreads. Speaking up is not always about shouting. It's about standing firm in your truth, standing strong in your values, standing in solidarity with those who cannot yet stand on their own. That is what breaks the chains. That is what ends the cycle of fear. And yes, speaking up comes with risks. You may be rejected, misunderstood, targeted, but the cost of silence is far greater than the cost of speaking out. Silence allows tyranny to breathe. Silence allows corruption to grow. Silence allows the oppressor to feel safe. But a single voice, a single truth, spoken with conviction, can shake an entire system. Look at the history of liberation movements, of revolutions, of change. They did not begin with armies. They began with voices. Brave voices. Honest voices. Voices that said, enough. Today, that voice must be yours. It must be ours. We must raise it not in hatred, but in clarity. Not in chaos, but in purpose. Our silence ends now, because every time we speak truth, we light a fire. Every time we speak with courage, we give someone else the strength to rise. That is how change begins. That is how nations are reborn. Not through silence, but through sound. Through the sound of truth breaking through fear. Let the world hear us. Let them know that we will not be silenced, not by threats, not by pressure, not by fear. Our silence ends today. And from this day forward, we speak not just for ourselves, but for the millions who were never allowed to. Peace is a beautiful word, but far too often, it has been used to cover up the ugly truth. They tell us to keep the peace, but what they really mean is to stay silent, to accept the injustice, to pretend everything is fine while our people suffer. That is not peace. That is pacification. That is control. And we are no longer interested in that kind of peace, because true peace cannot exist without justice. You cannot build lasting peace on a foundation of lies, exploitation, or fear. You cannot silence people and call it harmony. You cannot suppress truth and call it stability. Peace is not the absence of noise. It is the presence of fairness. Peace is not when the oppressed stop shouting. It's when the oppressors stop oppressing. It's when the systems that rob people of their rights are dismantled. It's when the children of our nations can walk to school without fear. When the mothers do not cry from hunger. When the fathers do not die with calloused hands and empty pockets. That is peace. That is what we fight for. That is what we deserve. Do not be fooled by the ones who claim we are disturbing the peace by speaking out. What they mean is we are disturbing their comfort. We are disrupting their illusion. They want the world to believe that order is the same as peace. But history tells us a different story. Many of the most violent times in human history look calm on the surface. There were no riots, no protests, just quiet suffering, covered by fake smiles and media silence. That is not peace. It is a slow death, a quiet genocide of potential. We must not settle for surface-level peace. We must demand a deeper one. A peace that acknowledges pain, confronts the past, and paves a new way forward. A peace that requires accountability, not just apologies. A peace where no one is above the law, where leaders serve the people, not the other way around. A peace that demands equity in economics, fairness in opportunity, and dignity in every life. That kind of peace takes courage. That kind of peace takes sacrifice. But it is the only peace worth having. Let it be known we are not against peace. We are against the illusion of peace built on silence and fear. We want peace that breathes, peace that uplifts, peace that heals. And we are willing to fight for it, not with bullets but with truth, not with hatred, but with conviction. We are willing to speak when it's dangerous, to stand when it's unpopular, because that is how real peace is born. When justice becomes the foundation of our nations, when dignity becomes non-negotiable, and when the weak are protected as fiercely as the powerful, that's when we'll know peace has truly arrived. Until then, we will not be quiet. Until then, we will not pretend. Because peace without justice is just another prison, and we refuse to live in it. We have come to a time in history when pretending is no longer an option. We cannot pretend that everything is fine while our people live under the weight of lies, poverty, and betrayal. War. We cannot pretend that the world operates on fairness when it is clear that power is often used to silence rather than serve. But we are not here to ask for pity. We are not here to beg for inclusion. We are here to declare that a new era is rising. An era defined not by fear of foreign control, but by truth, justice, and the dignity of every African soul. This is not just a message. It is a mission to reclaim the meaning of leadership, of sovereignty, of purpose. For too long, we've been told who we are by those who do not know our struggle. For too long, the world has spoken over us, traded our future, and profited from our pain. But that time is over. The silence has been broken. The mask has been removed. We see the game for what it is. And we refuse to play by the rules of a system that was never built for us to win. We speak now not out of anger, but out of clarity. We are not driven by hate. We are fueled by love. Love for our people, love for our land, love for the generations that will come after us. And because we love, we will fight. We will fight not with weapons of destruction, but with weapons of integrity. We will fight with discipline, with unity, with a vision so strong that no propaganda can weaken it. The world may not understand us. They may try to label us, dismiss us, or discredit us. Let them, because our work is not for applause. It is for transformation. What we are building is not temporary. It is not a trend or a moment. It is a movement rooted in the truth that real power lies in self-determination. In standing for something even when the world tells you to sit down. In choosing your people over profit. In choosing your principles over popularity. That is how we rise. That is how we lead. Not by copying the oppressor, but by creating something new, something just, something honorable. So let this message echo far beyond borders and politics. Let it reach every village, every city, every soul that has ever been told they are too small, too weak, too poor to matter. You matter. Your voice matters. Your future matters. And if we stand together, strong, focused, unshaken, nothing can stop us. The world may doubt us today, but history will remember us tomorrow. Not for how loud we shouted, but for how boldly we stood. Not for how much we gained, but for how fiercely we loved. We are awake now. We are aware. And we will not go back to sleep. The truth is alive, and it is marching forward.